Good morning, student.
Good morning, ma'am.
How are you all?
We are fine, ma'am.
Okay, so student, today we are going to study a new chapter, that is energy flow in an ecosystem. But before going to start our chapter, I would like to ask you some question. Everyone ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let's take a question. Okay. So your first question is, what is meant by ecosystem, student?
An ecosystem is an area where organisms interact with one another as well as with the non-living part of the environment.
Very good.
An ecosystem can be hung such as a leaking forest or
a large forest or a lake, or it can be small, such as a puddle of water or a rotting log.
Very good, everyone. Your next question is, which are the different types of ecosystem? Which are the different types of ecosystem?
Forest ecosystem, grassland,
Yes, grassland ecosystem.
Terrestrial ecosystem, forest ecosystem, grassland ecosystem, desert ecosystem, tundra ecosystem.
Tundra ecosystem. Very good. Anything else?
Anything aquatic ecosystem, freshwater ecosystem, marine
Ecosystem. Very good. So, student, your third question is, how do interaction take place between biotic and abiotic factors of an ecosystem?
shelter, geology and geography. Shelter,
In shelter, what they do?
animal create burrows in the ground for
Good. And what about geology and geography?
organism change the geology and geography of an area. For example, organisms break down rock layers to create topsoil, and plants and animals prevent erosion at the banks of rivers.
Very good. So, student, you have answered it very well done. Okay. So, let's start our chapter. So, first topic is student, energy flow in an ecosystem. Okay. So, we have already learned the classification of living organism according to their mode of nutrition. Okay. What kind of mode of nutrition? They either be producer, consumer, saprotrophs, okay, and decomposers. Consider student, first let's start with the primary consumer. Primary consumer, we also known as herbivores. Primary consumer is also known as
herbivores.
So here example given that grasshopper, squirrel, elephant, they are directly dependent on autotrophs, that is producer. Okay. Now the second one is secondary consumer. Secondary consumer is also known as carnivorous. Secondary consumer is also known as
Carnivorous.
okay. So the example is frog, wolf, fox. Okay, these consumer use herbivores as their food. Okay. Now the third one is apex or top consumer. They are also termed as carnivorous. So the example here is tiger, lion. These consumers use herbivorous and carnivorous as their food, and no other animals feed on top consumers. Okay, and the fourth one is omnivorous. They are mixed kind of consumers. Okay, human beer. Okay, humans, for example, humans, beer. They feed on herbivorous, carnivorous, and producers as well. Understood till now?
Yes, ma'am.
So the next one is food chain and food web. Okay, is it visible to all, this diagram?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, very good. So, what is food chain, student? Let's take a intro part. That interaction go on continuously between producer, consumer, and saprophytes, and there is a definite sequence in those interaction which is called as food chain. Okay, so the interaction go continuously between producer, consumer, and saprophytes is known as food chain. Okay, a definite sequence interaction take place here. Okay, each chain consists of 4 or 5 more links. Okay, each chain have 4 to 5 more links. So they interconnected at a various level, and what they formed? Food wave. Okay, what they formed? Food wave. Understood?
Yes, ma'am.
So what is food chain? Definite sequence interaction between this organism. Okay, producer, consumer, and saprophytes. And what is food web? And what is food web? Each chain consists 4, 5 or more links, and they are interconnected in various level. This is they form the interaction between the interconnection between this topic level. Because of that, they form food web. Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Let's study the next topic, the energy pyramid. Okay, the energy pyramid. So the energy pyramid, first one is tropic level. Okay, so each level in the food chain is called a tropic level. Okay, each level in the food chain is called as tropic level. Understood?
Yes,
A tropic level is the step at which organism obtain its food in the chain. Okay, the amount of matter and energy gradually decreases from producer at the lowest level to top consumer at a highest level. Okay, understood? The amount of matter of energy gradually decreases from producer to highest level consumer. So you have to remember one point, that in 1942 Lindemann in 1942 studied the food chain and energy flow. Charles Elton, a British scientist who proposed the concept of ecological pyramid in 1927, after his study of the tundra ecosystem of the Bear Island in England. This pyramid is also called as Eltonian pyramid. Okay, why they are called as Eltonian pyramid? Because the honor given by the founder, because the honor given by this scientist. Okay, Charles Elton. That's why we termed as Eltonian pyramid. So the energy transfer that take place at each tropic level there are different levels of energy exchange in the food chain. The initial quantity of energy goes on decreasing at every level of an energy exchange. So student, in paper question will be asked that what is pyramid of energy. So you have to remember the number of organism also decreases from the lowest level to the highest level, and this pattern of energy exchange is an ecosystem, is called a pyramid of energy. Understood?
Yes.
What is pyramid of energy? The number of organism decreases from lowest level to highest level, and this pattern of energy exchange in an ecosystem is called pyramid of energy. Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
So let's take some example. After the death of apex consumer, their energy become available to decomposer. What happened here? Understood everyone? After the death of apex consumer, their energy become available to the
Decomposing.
decomposers. Fungi and other organisms decompose the body of
Death.
dead animals. Very good. And they are called decomposers. So in this process, student, obtaining food from the remains of organism, decomposer convert them into simple carbon compound. Okay, what they do, they obtaining the complex food material into a simple carbon compound. Okay, this substance easily mix with air, water and soil, where they are again absorbed by plants, and they are incorporated into the food chain. Okay,
Yes.
so you can see that due to food web formed by the various modes of nutrition, various nutrients circulate continuously in the ecosystem. The sun is the most important source of an energy in an ecosystem, and you have to remember that green plants of an ecosystem store some of the solar energy in the form of food. Before reaching the decomposer, this energy is passed on from one trophic label to the next. Okay, so some amount of energy in the form of heat. Decomposer dissipated some amount of energy in the form of heat, so no part of the energy ever returns to the sun. Okay, understood? Such passage of energy is referred as a one-way transport. Understood? What is one-way transport? That no part of the energy return to the sun. Okay, so the sun, such passage of energy is referred as a one-way transport. Understood till now, everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Very good. Let's understand the next topic, that is biogeochemical cycle. Okay.
Biogeochemical cycle.
So what is biogeochemical cycle? The cyclic flow of nutrients within an ecosystem is called biogeochemical cycle. Yes, repeat with me, student. The cyclic flow of nutrients
The cyclic flow of nutrients
within an ecosystem
within an ecosystem
is called the biogeochemical cycle.
the biogeochemical cycle.
Understood?
Yes, ma'am.
So who is going to define what is biogeochemical cycle? Yes, Prince.
The cycle flow on nutritions.
The cyclic flow of a nutrients
within an ecosystem is called biogeochemical cycle.
Very good. Okay. So, student, through the energy flow in an ecosystem is one way. The flow of nutrient is cyclical. Okay. All organisms need nutrients for their growth, right?
Yes.
So, the study the various component in this figure alongside, which is given over here. You can see this picture. Nutrients necessary for the growth of an organism are continuously transferred from abiotic to biotic factors and biotic to abiotic factors within an ecosystem, and this cycle operates continuously through medium of a biosphere formed by lithosphere, atmosphere and hydrosphere. The recycling of biological, geological and chemical sources of nutrients in this process a complex process and depends upon the level of energy transfer in an ecosystem. Understood till now?
Yes, ma'am.
So let's study the types of biogeochemical cycle. There are two types: gaseous cycle and sedimentary cycles. So an accumulation of a main abiotic gaseous nutrients material is found in the earth atmosphere, whereas in sedimentary cycle accumulation of the main abiotic nutrients material is found in a soil, sediment and sedimentary rocks of an earth. Okay, so let's move towards the next new chapter. Sorry student, let's move towards the next topic, the carbon cycle. Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
so what is carbon cycle, student? The circulation and recycling of carbon from atmosphere to living organism and after their death back to the atmosphere is called carbon cycle. Yes, repeat with me, student.
Yes, ma'am.
The circulation and recycling of an carbon from the atmosphere. Repeat with me. The circulation
The circulation
and recycling of an carbon
and recycling of a carbon
from the atmosphere
from the atmosphere
to living organism
to living organism
and after their death
after their death
back to the atmosphere
back to the atmosphere
is called
is called
the carbon cycle.
the carbon cycle.
Okay, understood?
Yes, ma'am.
So plant convert carbon dioxide into carbohydrate by the process of student
Photosynthesis.
photosynthesis. Very good. Similarly, they produce carbon compound like protein and fats also. So herbivorous feed upon plants, carnivorous feed upon the herbivorous, and in this way biotic carbon is transported from plants to herbivorous and also from herbivorous to carnivorous and from carnivorous to apex consumer. Okay, so got it?
Yes, ma'am.
So eventually student, after death all types of consumer are decomposed by decomposers like bacteria and fungi, and carbon dioxide is released again into the atmosphere and is used again by living organism. So in this way carbon is continuously passed from one living organism to another. After the death of living organism, carbon goes to the atmosphere and again taken up by living organism. Okay,
Yes.
so let's move towards the next cycle. that is oxygen cycle. Okay, so what is oxygen cycle, everyone? Oxygen form 21% of the atmosphere. Okay, and it is also present in the hydrosphere and lithosphere. So, student, you have to remember their definition. Circulation and recycling of oxygen within the biosphere is called the oxygen cycle. So, everyone repeat with me. Circulation and recycling of an oxygen
and recycling of the oxygen
within the biosphere
within the biosphere
is called the oxygen cycle.
is called the oxygen cycle.
Very good. So oxygen is continuously produced as well as used up in the atmosphere. Understood? Because oxygen is highly reactive and it is readily react with other elements and compound. Okay, so let's okay, one more point you have to remember here, that oxygen is released in the process of photosynthesis, whereas it is used up in the process like respiration, combustion, decomposition, corrosion, rusting. Okay, where it used by in the process of
Respiration,
combustion, decomposition.
corrosion, rusting. Good. So student, let's move towards the next topic. This is our last topic from this chapter. Okay, so the nitrogen cycle. So student, nitrogen form 78%. Okay, nitrogen form 78%. The maximum portion of the atmosphere is covered by nitrogen, and it is necessary for the maintenance of cycle of nature. Okay, nitrogen is very essential for the maintenance of atmosphere. Okay, so the circulation and recycling of nitrogen gas into the form of different compounds through various biotic and abiotic processes in nature is called nitrogen cycle. Everyone repeat with me. The circulation and recycling of nitrogen.
the circling of the nitrogen,
The circulation and recycling of nitrogen
the circling and recycle of nitrogen
gas into the form of different
gas into the form of different compound
through various biotic and abiotic process
and abiotic process
in nature is called the nitrogen cycle.
the nitrogen cycle.
Very good. So student, all the organisms participate in the nitrogen cycle, and it is important component of proteins and nucleic acid. Okay, as compared to other elements, it is inactive and does not easily combine with other elements. Okay, so most organisms cannot use the free form of nitrogen. So everyone, important process of the nitrogen cycle. First one is nitrogen fixation. What happen in the nitrogen fixation? Conversion of nitrogen into nitrates and nitrites through atmospheric, industrial and biological process. Now the second important process is ammonification. Release of ammonia through decomposition of dead bodies and excretory waste of organism. Now the third one is nitrification. Conversion of ammonia into a nitrite and then nitrate. The second one is denitrification. So here conversion of nitrogen compound into gaseous nitrogen. Understood everyone the whole chapters?
Ma'am, I doubt.
Yes, what you have doubt? Tell me.
The oxygen circulation.
Oxygen cycle.
Oxygen cycle. Okay. So what is oxygen cycle? Circulation and recycling of oxygen within the biosphere is called as oxygen cycle. Okay, what happened here? Circulation and recycling, okay, of an oxygen where it take place within the biosphere. This is known as oxygen cycle. Okay, and oxygen is continuously produced as well as used up in the atmosphere. So the oxygen used up in the process like respiration, combustion, decomposition, corrosion and rusting. Understood now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Very good. So student, everyone understood this chapter, right?
Yes.
So let's take a recap what we have studied till now. First one is energy flow in an ecosystem. Energy flow in an ecosystem. So what we have studied? Energy flow in an ecosystem. Primary consumer, secondary consumer, apex or top consumer, and last one is omnivorous. Food chain and food web, we have studied that interaction between different organisms, okay, and they are also interconnected with each other, okay. And the third one we have studied energy pyramid, that each label in the food chain is called a trophic label, whereas trophic label is a step at which organism obtains their food, okay. Now the biogeochemical cycle. Next one is biogeochemical cycle. The cyclic flow of nutrients in an ecosystem is known as biogeochemical cycle. Next one is carbon cycle. The circulation and recycling of carbon in an atmosphere by living organism or after their death back to the atmosphere is called as carbon cycle. And the oxygen cycle. So the circulation and recycling of oxygen within biosphere is called oxygen cycle. And the last one is nitrogen cycle. So the circulation and recycling of nitrogen gas into the form of different compounds through various biotic and abiotic process in nature is called nitrogen cycle. Okay, understood?
Yes, ma'am.
So everyone's ready for the evaluation question,
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
right?
yes.
So student, you have to answer me that what is meant by nitrogen fixation, student? Do you know what is meant by nitrogen fixation?
Nitrogen fixation is a chemical that converts atmospheric nitrogen into ammonia, which is absorbed by organism. Nitrogen fixation is essentially converting atmosphere nitrogen into a form that plants can more readily utilize.
Very good, Prince. You have answered it properly. And now your next question is what is food web? So what is food web, student?
Food wave, a complex network of interconnecting
and overlapping food chains, showing a feeding relationship within a community.
Very good. So student, your today assignment is make some interesting observation while having a meal at home. Okay, what you have to do today? Make some interesting observation while having a meal at home and identify the tropic label of various food items in your dish. Okay, you have to identify the tropic label of the various food items in your dish and also identify your own label in the chain. Understood, everyone?
yes, ma'am.
So everyone understood today's chapter, right?
Yes, ma'am.
That's good. So thank you, student. Bye bye. Take care.
Bye, miss.
Thank you, ma'am.